Imagine if the hurricane that just hit your town, or I don't know, the promotion you just lost out on, had absolutely nothing to do with weather patterns or corporate politics.
Right.
Imagine if both of those things were actually entirely dictated by the invisible landscaping of your own mind.
I mean, it is a complete inversion of how we normally perceive cause and effect.
Yeah,
We tend to think this stuff just happens to us,
yeah.
that we are just walking through a world of random occurrences.
Totally.
But what if there is no randomness? What if you are quite literally emitting a frequency that calls every single event, person, and disaster right to your doorstep?
It's wild to think about. And welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a genuinely mind-bending 2019 essay by Su Feng,
Translated by Kinyu, right?
translated by Kinyu and edited by Kachir. The piece is titled, What Kind of Environment Attracts What Kind of Creatures? And our mission today for you, listening right now, is to explore this really radical premise.
It definitely goes deep.
It does. We're going to look at how the exact things showing up in your life, from the literal birds in your backyard to the luck you experience on a daily basis, might be perfectly engineered by your own physical and spiritual environments.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and before we jump into the deep end, it's really important to establish some ground rules for how we are approaching this text.
Absolutely.
Because this essay makes some massive, highly provocative leaps. It ventures into deep metaphysical territory, specifically when it starts making direct connections between human morality and extreme natural disasters.
Right, which is a heavy concept.
Exactly. So just to be entirely clear, in this deep dive, we aren't endorsing these viewpoints. We aren't taking sides politically, spiritually, or scientifically.
We're just the messengers.
Precisely. We are strictly here to impartially convey the original source material. We want to understand this unique worldview from the inside out, looking at the internal logic to see exactly how this philosophy connects point A to point B. Yeah, we are just the guides walking you through this framework. And what's brilliant about how this essay is structured is that it doesn't start in the clouds.
No, it really doesn't.
It starts in the dirt, literally. The whole philosophy begins with a highly practical story about the international family headquarters of Lifechanyuan, which is up in Canada.
Right.
We get a very clear timeline here. So picture this. It's the year 2017. The front and rear yards of this property are huge, like over 2,600 square meters each.
That's a massive amount of space.
Massive. But they are completely covered in debris, neglected, messy. And the result of that environment, zero birds.
Wow.
Absolute silence. It's an ecological ghost town.
Which is, I mean, exactly what you would expect, right?
Right.
But here is where we get to see the methodical, almost scientific approach they took to testing this environment. In 2018, an effort begins to clean up these massive yards.
Yeah.
But there's a constraint. They only have this tiny, completely underpowered lawnmower to work with. So the backyard remains full of thatch. It's not fully cleared.
So it's still pretty messy.
Yeah, and consequently, the birds continue to completely avoid that specific space. But the front yard gets cleaned up properly.
And what happens?
Almost immediately, like flipping a switch. A few Canadian geese and crows show up.
Oh, wow. So the environment changes slightly and the creatures change slightly.
Exactly.
But then comes 2019, which is the year of the major upgrade. They finally buy a much larger mower. They clear both yards entirely, removing all the debris, and they cultivate this incredibly lush green space.
And the results were pretty dramatic, right?
The transformation is wild. Come spring, it turns into a bustling metropolis of wildlife. All these unknown birds appear out of nowhere, especially hummingbirds.
Hummingbirds are so picky about their environment, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a massive flock of crows moves in. They come to the lawn for food, and they just hang out for hours. We're talking about 70-plus birds blanketing the lawn at once.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and depending on the season, you've got a dozen Canadian geese foraging in the front yard in the spring, and then they're casually roaming the backyard by autumn.
It's a perfect physical demonstration of this baseline revelation. You transform the environment from a debris-filled wasteland to a lush green sanctuary, and the residents automatically transform from nothing to a thriving ecosystem.
It's so clear-cut.
There is no mystery to it. The fundamental rule is established right here. The nature of the environment absolutely determines the kinds of creatures who will be attracted to live within it.
Yeah, when you see it play out like that, it's an undeniable formula. And there's actually another story in the essay that takes this exact same concept, but dials the hospitality up to 11.
Oh, right, the one in China.
Yeah, It happened at the former third branch of Lifechanyuan, which was located deep in a valley.
Right. This valley underwent a massive year-long environmental renovation by the residents living there. Now, the text refers to these people as Chanyuan celestials.
Which means what, exactly?
It essentially means they are individuals within this specific community who are dedicated to pursuing a higher spiritual elevation and living in harmony with nature.
Got it.
So they spent over a year completely revamping this valley. And the result? The valley transformed into an endless chorus of chirping birds from dawn until dusk.
Sounds amazing.
It really does. The imagery used is incredibly poetic. It describes a constant state of birds singing and flowers giving forth their fragrances.
But what I found so amazing about that story was the mindset of these Chanyuan celestials. They had all these persimmon trees, and sure, they ate some of the fruit themselves, but they purposely left the rest just for the birds.
Yeah, deliberate choice.
And then they planted a few acres of wheat, and the birds ate absolutely all of it, every last grain.
Which naturally prompted someone to suggest that maybe they should try to protect their crops. Like maybe don't let the wild birds decimate the entire wheat harvest.
Makes sense.
But the response from the community was incredibly telling. They essentially said, it does not matter who ate it, let the birds eat it.
I love that.
They didn't view it as a loss at all. And because of that specific, radically generous mindset, even more birds arrived, settling in the valley in pairs and large groups all year round.
Wait, I really love this because it flips our normal scarcity mindset totally upside down.
It does.
It's like throwing a lavish, incredibly expensive dinner party. The guests arrive and they eat absolutely all your food and drink every single drop of your wine.
Right. Usually you'd be upset.
Yeah. But instead of sitting there furious that you have no leftovers for yourself, you're thrilled. Because the entire point of buying the house and cooking the meal was to attract those specific guests in the first place.
That is a great way to look at it.
You built the ultimate bird environment, the birds showed up, and they thrived. Total success. You didn't lose your wheat, you successfully purchased a valley full of birdsong.
That dinner party analogy is spot on. It captures the exact mechanism of hospitality at play here. And this is the moment in the essay where the scope widens dramatically.
We zoom way out.
Exactly. We move from a few backyard birds to a grand theory of everything. If a clean yard physically pulls in hummingbirds, what do other environments pull in? The underlying argument expands to cover the fundamental laws governing all of nature, weather, and even human civilization.
Yeah, we get hit with this rapid-fire list of environmental pairings that really paints a vivid picture of how universal this rule supposedly is.
It's quite a list.
It is. In nature, mountains attract tigers. Grasslands attract wolves. Jungles get you lions and leopards. Stagnant pools attract crocodiles. Wetlands draw in migratory birds, and the harsh Gobi Desert attracts lizards.
And it doesn't stop at biology. It extends directly into weather patterns and societal structure.
You're right, the weather part is fascinating.
The premise argues that green mountains and blue waters inherently attract good, mild weather. Conversely, poor mountains and stale, polluted waters attract violent storms.
Okay, and then it goes into society.
Yes, bridging into the human realm. Bad emperors attract treacherous villains, while wise emperors attract upright ministers and righteous citizens. Brothels attract whoremasters, art galleries attract artists, casinos attract gamblers, and battlefields attract soldiers.
Okay, hold on. So what does this all mean? I have to genuinely push back here a little bit.
Sure.
I see how this works poetically, but logically, we are jumping across entirely different fields of science. Like, a crocodile living in a stagnant pool is just basic evolutionary biology and habitat adaptation.
Right.
And a gambler walking into a casino is just basic human behavioral psychology. They go where the blackjack tables are. Is the argument here just a nice metaphor for like attracts, or are we talking about a strict mechanical law of physics?
That is exactly the friction point where this worldview becomes radically different from modern science.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the distinction you just made between a biological habitat and a psychological environment, it doesn't exist in this framework.
Really? They're the same.
The essay argues for a strict, universal law of resonance. Think of it like tuning forks. If you strike a tuning fork in a room, any other tuning fork calibrated to that exact same frequency will spontaneously start vibrating. It's a precise mechanism of physics.
So you're saying the casino is the tuning fork?
Exactly. The casino doesn't just happen to have gamblers in it because of a neon sign out front. The very nature, the energetic environment of the casino emits a specific frequency that acts as an irresistible magnetic pull for a person carrying a matching internal frequency.
Wow.
This philosophy intentionally flattens the distinction between the physical, the biological, and the social. The Gobi Desert, the rainstorm, the bad emperor, the casino, they're all just environments broadcasting a signal, and the corresponding creature has no choice but to answer the call.
Wow. Okay, so if the external world is just a giant, unavoidable sorting machine based on environmental frequencies, this brings us to the most uncomfortable question.
The internal world.
Exactly. If this law of resonance is universally undeniable in the physical world, what happens when we apply it to our minds?
This is where the true weight of the philosophy lands. The argument shifts inward. It asserts that environments aren't just physical places you can see. They are also spiritual and mental states.
Which is a huge leap.
It is. And the exact same rules of attraction apply perfectly to both. If a physical garden attracts physical bees, what kind of creatures does your internal spiritual environment attract?
And the imagery used here doesn't pull any punches.
No, it does not.
It's incredibly blunt. The essay states that if your spiritual environment is cultivated like a beautiful garden of flowers, it will attract bees and butterflies. But if your spiritual environment is like, and I'm quoting the translation directly here, stinky shit, then it is only going to attract flies.
There is zero gray area in that metaphor.
None at all.
It perfectly illustrates their concept of spiritual resonance, and the essay immediately applies this mechanic to a concept that takes us deep into mystical territory, which is soul possession.
Right. The text acknowledges that there are countless stories out there about people being possessed, and it takes the stance that this phenomenon definitely exists. Yes.
But the twist is that the type of entity that possesses you isn't a random spiritual attack. It's entirely dictated by the landscaping of your own mind.
It's deeply psychological when you look at it. We usually think of spiritual possession as a random victimization, like walking down the street and getting mugged by a ghost.
I mean, like you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But let's use an analogy to understand this mechanism. Think of the human mind as a petri dish in a lab. You don't just catch mold out of thin air. Mold spores are everywhere, all the time.
Right.
But they only grow in a petri dish that provides the perfect, dark, damp, sugary environment for them to thrive.
So if you provide the damp environment, the mold moves in.
Precisely. The text outlines a highly specific hierarchy of possession based on this. If someone deliberately mystifies things, constantly obfuscating the truth, their internal petri dish is perfectly calibrated to attract ghosts or monsters.
Okay.
And if they spend all their time obsessively talking about spirits and deities, they are cultivating an environment that will be possessed by evil spirits because they are broadcasting that chaotic, messy frequency. But what happens if you clean up the inner yard? If we go back to the lawnmower analogy, what happens when you clear the spiritual debris?
The entities change. If your spiritual environment is pure and clean, the frequency shifts, and you will attract angels and bodhisattvas.
A bodhisattva would be like an enlightened guide.
Yes, bodhisattvas, in this context, being enlightened beings who possess deep compassion and intentionally guide others. And if you take it to the absolute highest level, if your internal environment becomes extraordinary and completely spotless, you will be possessed by gods.
Wow.
The entity that resides within you is a flawless, one-to-one reflection of the home you built for it.
Which leads us directly to what I consider the absolute climax of this worldview. And frankly, it is the most controversial and provocative claim we're going to talk about today.
It's definitely intense.
Yeah. We just established that your internal state dictates the spiritual entities you attract. But the essay takes this concept and applies it to macro-level catastrophic global events. We're talking about earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, plagues, and fires.
All big ones.
Their argument is that these extreme natural disasters occur because, quoting the text here, there must be something wrong with people's spiritual environments in those places.
That is the core unyielding thesis. Every single environment, whether it's a single human mind or an entire geographical region, invites either auspiciousness or disaster.
Right.
And the text drives this home on a micro level too. As an individual, if you frequently encounter villains, if you deal with bullies, if you face insults, ugly scenery, misfortunes, or just constantly run into unhappy people, the essay explicitly states that it is your own spiritual environment that has gone wrong. The problem is caused by you.
We really need to pause and wrestle with this, because it is an incredibly heavy thing to process.
It absolutely is. Again, we're just looking at the mechanics of this philosophy.
Right. Totally impartial here. But on one hand, I can see how it's the ultimate form of empowerment. You are being told you have total, absolute control over your reality simply by tending to your inner garden. You hold all the keys to the universe.
Yes, complete agency.
But the flip side of that coin is crushing. To look at a town leveled by a hurricane, or to look at someone who is being bullied at work and to conclude that this is a direct mechanical reflection of their spiritual hygiene.
Yeah.
That feels like the ultimate form of victim blaming. It's a massive weight of collective and personal responsibility. How do we even begin to square that logically?
Well, to understand how they square it, we have to look at how this framework views the concept of randomness. In modern Western thought, we accept that randomness exists.
Yeah, bad luck is a thing.
Exactly. Tectonic plates shift, weather systems collide, and bad things happen to good people. But in this specific philosophical framework, randomness is an illusion. Bad luck simply does not exist. Everything is a perfect mathematical mirror of an internal spiritual state.
So a tectonic plate shifting isn't geology.
In this view, the tectonic plate shifting is just the mechanical output of a spiritual input. It's actually a very ancient way of viewing the world, if you think about it.
How so?
If you look back at historical concepts like the mandate of heaven in ancient China, there was a widespread belief that natural disasters like floods, famines, earthquakes were direct cosmic responses to the immorality of the ruling emperor.
Right, the earth was literally shuddering in response to bad leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What this essay does is take that ancient macro-level concept and apply it with terrifying precision to every single individual. The collective spiritual frequency of a region literally fractures the earth. It is a completely self-contained, unshakable, logical loop.
Wow. Okay. If we accept the premise of this loop, if we are holding the remote control to our reality and our internal environment dictates literally everything that happens to us, what is the end game here?
Right.
Like, how are we actually supposed to be living our lives if we want to change the channel?
The text sets up its final argument with a series of incredibly pointed rhetorical questions aimed directly at the reader.
Yeah, let's ask you, the listener, right now. Have you ever seen a god with your own eyes? Have you ever sat down with a Buddha? Have you ever encountered a fairy?
The text assumes your answer is no.
It does. And the reason, according to this philosophy, isn't because they are myths or because they are hiding in some invisible dimension.
Yeah.
The reason you haven't seen them is simply that the environment of your mind is not worthy of them.
There is a specific defining maxim for this dynamic in the essay. Absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives.
It's pretty stark.
It really outlines what is essentially a cosmic caste system, but one based entirely on spiritual purity rather than birthright or wealth.
Yeah.
The text states bluntly that pigs belong in pig pens, and regular people are only worthy of struggling in the world of suffering. If you want to experience the fairy worlds, your spiritual environment must exactly perfectly match the frequency of the fairy world.
And to really drive this home, they bring in a massive fact from mythology, the Queen Mother of the West.
Yes. For context, the Queen Mother of the West is a supreme goddess in Taoist mythology, associated with prosperity, longevity, and ultimate spiritual bliss.
Major deity.
Huge. And the text points out that she hosts the legendary Immortal Peach meeting, but she would never randomly invite just anyone to this banquet. You have to inherently belong there to even be perceived by her.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's the ultimate VIP club. Think about the most exclusive, impossible to get into club on earth.
Like a secret society.
Right. The bouncer isn't going to let you in just because you really want to be there. You can't wait in line for days, you can't bribe the host, and you definitely can't sneak in through the kitchen.
No shortcuts.
Exactly. In this framework, to get into the Immortal Peach meeting, you literally have to change your core spiritual DNA to perfectly match the dress code of the club. If your internal tuning fork isn't already vibrating at the exact same frequency as the Queen Mother of the West, the invitation doesn't just get lost in the mail. It never exists.
You just don't attract it.
You don't attract it.
That analogy perfectly sets up the radical conclusion this essay arrives at regarding the purpose of human life. Because if this system of vibrational attraction is true, if the bouncer only checks your internal frequency, then the vast majority of us are focusing all of our daily energy on the entirely wrong things.
Wait, if the goal isn't networking or working endless overtime, It implies that the vast majority of our daily anxiety is completely misplaced.
Exactly. The text states unequivocally that the main task of a person's life is not to devote time and energy to studying, working, or forming connections.
But that is 99% of what human beings do. We stress over exams to get the degree, we grind at work to get the money, we network relentlessly to force opportunities to happen.
And this worldview says that all of that outward, frantic striving is entirely backwards. You are trying to chase down the creatures.
Oh.
The text concludes that the only main task of a person's life, the only job that actually matters, is creating your own beautiful, natural, and spiritual environments. Because if you get the environment right, the degree, the money, the opportunities, the right people, the creatures will naturally, magnetically, and effortlessly be attracted to you.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
You are exhausting yourself chasing butterflies when all you needed to do was plant a flower.
We're chasing the butterflies instead of planting the flowers. That is such a profound shift in perspective. So let's synthesize this whole journey.
Let's do it.
We've gone from the very literal act of mowing a lawn in Canada to the physics of resonance to the heavy implications of natural disasters, all the way to securing an invite to a cosmic VIP banquet.
It's been quite a ride.
It really has. The practical steps the essay leaves us with are surprisingly grounded, even if the underlying logic is incredibly vast. If you want nature to make the weather smooth and mild, the text says you must genuinely love her and cherish her life.
Simple enough.
Right. And if you want your own life to be safe and smooth, you have to cultivate kind thoughts in your heart, no thoughts of hurting others, no rash, impulsive actions, just a quiet restraint of your own greed.
It all ties back beautifully to the physical metaphors we started with. If you want to attract butterflies and bees, you must grow flowers in your soul garden.
Yeah.
If you want to wake up to birdsong, you have to plant fruit trees and share the harvest. And if you want noble, helpful people to enter your life, you simply have to maintain an environment of gratitude.
It all comes back to that one unbreakable, universal rule. Build the environment, and the matching creature has no choice but to arrive.
The essay actually leaves us with two poetic final thoughts that really anchor the entire philosophy.
Oh, lay them on us.
The text concludes by stating, fragrances will attract butterflies to flowers, and pure hearts will be frequented by celestial beings. And finally, once the roots are established, the way will grow therefrom.
Once the roots are established, the way will grow therefrom. I really love that image. The roots have to come first.
They absolutely do.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Shui Feng's worldview, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Something to chew on.
Exactly. Think about all the late night studying, all the stressful working, and all the desperate networking you do to try and force things to happen in your life. What if you completely paused all of that outward striving tomorrow?
Just stopped entirely.
Yeah. If you spent the next month entirely focused on cultivating your inner garden, clearing out the debris, planting the flowers, tuning the frequency, what kind of unexpected creatures or opportunities do you think might organically land on your doorstep? Would you still be staring at an empty, static yard, or would the hummingbirds finally show up? Thanks for exploring this with us. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.